Call to order the Will County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for October 1st. Thank you. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Brothers, Joliet Township.
Here.
White, Troy Township.
Here.
Keebner, Manhattan Township.
Present.
Barbara Peterson, Washington Township is here. Kim Mitchell, Shanahan Township. Here. Bettenhausen, Green Garden Township.
Present.
Chairman Hugh Stiffen, Frankfurt Township.
Here. I presume that everyone who wishes to speak tonight has signed in. If you have not, you will have to sign in, please, before you speak. But I'm going to ask everyone now to turn down or put their cell phone in airplane mode. And I'm going to swear you all in en masse, all those who are speaking. So I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I do. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, variance cases will be heard to a conclusion by this commission. The remaining cases heard this evening will advance to the Land Use Development Committee, this county boardroom, 10:30 a.m. on October 8th. From there, they will go to the full county board, who will vote on those particular cases upon the recommendation of this committee plus the Land Use Development Committee.
Thank you. Call for approval of the minutes of September 3rd.
Second.
And motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, motion and a second. Are there any changes to be made or anything? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Okay. The first case tonight will be temporary use permit TUP-19-009. And Janine Farrell will read this case.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For a moment to get the presentation queued up here. All right, so temporary use permit TUP-19-009 is a temporary use request to use a travel trailer as emergency shelter while the residence on the property is undergoing repairs due to fire damage. This takes place in Washington Township, and the owners are William and Linda Murray, and the agent is Able Housing. So within the Will County zoning ordinance, the zoning administrator is allowed to administratively approve emergency shelter, but this provision is only limited to a single mobile home. What the applicant is proposing is a travel trailer. So something that has a license plate that you might see, an RV hooked up to a truck being pulled around. This type of request needs to come before the commission for approval. It's not something that the zoning administrator or land use staff is able to administratively approve. I have an image of the property and then sort of a zoomed in image of the property there with conceptually where the travel trailer is going to be located. You can see it's right off of the driveway. We have the existing residence outlined in yellow here, and then the location of the travel trailer, basically right next to it. So as I mentioned, the residence was damaged during a fire, and this will allow the owners to reside on the site while the damage repair is going on. And the applicant has applied for that permit to do the damage repair and also for the travel trailer itself. So staff is recommending approval of this temporary use permit with 2 conditions. The first condition is limiting it for 179 days or 6 months, which is under the building code. So that is what is permitted under the building code for a temporary structure. The second condition is just stating that after the certificate of occupancy is issued for that residence that's on the property, they will have 30 days to remove the travel trailer and any associated sanitary facilities with it. The one thing that you had noticed in your packet was that we received comments from the Will County Health Department regarding this, and they were objecting because at that time the applicant had not reached out to them regarding the temporary sanitary facilities, which do require a permit and approval from the health department. So as part of the building permit for the travel trailer itself, that temporary building permit, health department approval will be required. And we just received an email from the health department. I believe the applicant has reached out to them. So it is not a condition on here because their approval will already be required through the building permit process. And that concludes my analysis.
Janine, what do they do? What does the health department do in a case like this with a trailer?
Sure. So they basically are looking at the sanitary facility in terms of like a temporary septic holding tank. Yes, so they need to evaluate that, need to make sure that it's sized appropriately for the travel trailer, and other permitting requirements that they might have is emptied on such and such basis, for example.
Is this something that staff should look at in the future, or maybe incorporating it in an ordinance so that you can make an administrative decision on it?
I would agree, yes, and we've had those internal discussions.
Yeah.
I believe that it is a trend in the industry now to use
Right.
these instead of a mobile home, for example, just because it's more cost effective. So that's something that we'll need to look at.
Okay. So we handle that?
I do handle it.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of Jenny? Thank you very much. The resident or agent here, would you care to come down at all?
Do you have questions for me?
Pardon me?
Do you have questions for me? I'd be happy to come down.
No, does anyone have any questions? No, we do not, so you don't have to come down if you don't want to.
Okay, thank you.
I would,
Mr. Chairman, with regards to TUP-19-09-009, I'll make a motion for approval of a temporary use permit for emergency shelter in order to use the travel trailer as temporary housing during damage repair of existing residents with the 2 conditions.
second. We have a motion and a second. Before I ask for the vote, are there any objectors or concerned citizens in this case? No. Okay, thank you. No.
Did my correct?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Okay, thank you.
So technically, we just gave somebody permission to camp on their own property.
That's right.
For a limited period of time.
Put up the TUP.
Didn't get that corrected.
The next case is an appeal of administrative decision AAD-19-002. The staff report. Judy will be handling that also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an appeal of an administrative decision, case number AAD-19-002. The applicant is appealing two sections of the zoning ordinance which are related. It's section 155-13.50E4C and 155-14.80. This takes place in Joliet Township, and the owners are Faye and Pete Ferraduros. I have the parcel up here outlined in red for you. You can see it's right on the corner of Keogh and Washington Streets. It is a commercially zoned property, C1, and the address, although there's multiple ones on the property because it's a multi-unit commercial building, the address under question is 1700 East Washington Street. Excuse me. The applicant is proposing to remove an existing sign, which is on top of the building here, and they are proposing to put in a freestanding sign. This is just a concept plan. This is not existing on the property currently. This is just something that they have mocked up as part of the appeal. This is another image of that proposed sign for the Bureau Shack. It's a little blurry here, but this is the site concept plan detailing the proposed location of the sign on the property here. And we have a plat survey compared with the aerial image. So just something I want to point out to you is here we have the building, so this is the front of the building, and the sidewalk. So basically the parking spaces along Washington Street are located within the roadway. This is an older parcel, this is an older area of Joliet. So you can see here how the yellow stripes and the asphalt pavement extends into the roadway here. Now along Keogh Street, while the parking spaces up here do not exit directly onto the roadway, there is a very narrow driveway. And there are no curbs on this property breaking up that area from the parking to the roadways. So due to that unique situation that exists on the property where each parking space is opening up into the road, we consider them within the vision clearance triangle because of that. So under the provision, which is what the applicant here is appealing, is that any location within these blue triangles on the aerial here has to remain unobstructed. So this means no signage could be placed in those blue triangles. Obviously, the location of where the applicant is proposing to put the sign is within that area. It's right at the corner. It's visible for the business there. The building here, the corner of the building is right here. So the sign is going right around there. So the applicant is appealing both of those sections because staff cannot approve this building permit for this freestanding sign because of its location in the vision clearance triangle. So the applicant is appealing that decision, stating that staff's assessment was incorrect in regards to those two sections that are before you. And that concludes staff's analysis.
I have a question. This sign is 8 feet in the air.
Let me see this.
There's nothing but a pole that would be in that triangle, as I read
Correct.
it.
The sign from bottom to top of the sign is 19 feet 4 inches. And the sign itself, the height is 6 by 8. So you're correct. So 8 feet of the pole.
So my thinking, and maybe it's faulty, but my thinking is that sign doesn't block any more than if a person stood up there on the corner as somebody was driving around the corner. And, you know, a person standing there would impede the vision more than that signpost would, in my mind.
But to clarify, you said there's actually parking on both sides in that whole vision triangle.
Correct. So let me go back
So-
here. So yeah, you can see the striped lines. They're sort of visible here under that blue. So yes, there are actual
So parked
parking
cars are going to
spaces.
be way more obstructive than any.
Any sign post. And the sign right now is just, if you look at the old sign, it's just on a pole now.
Yeah, it just perches on the top of the building.
Right.
So the pole is the issue. The pole
Yes.
is the structure.
So the whole sign is the pole is the sign is a structure,
There's no height requirement for the triangles.
not for the triangles.
So people park in those and
So
they-
that obstructs the vision too, according to the ordinance definition.
So they're violating the ordinance by having parking spaces.
But it's grandfathered
It's an old,
Yeah, it's been there for a long time.
yeah, so we would not approve something like that today, which makes this difficult with the sign because we cannot approve that sign today.
I kind of agree with you, person standing up there. I mean, John might be able to hide behind that 8-inch pole. I would never be able to hide behind that.
And people do sit there at the table, so they will be standing up and down. And so, in my mind, this is not obstructive.
But they're asking us if the administrator was.
Yes, the administrator was wrong.
The administrator has to go by,
Interpreting the ordinance.
has to go with the
And
ordinance.
everybody interprets something in a different way.
Correct.
So if we say that that the administrator was wrong, where does this next step go?
So this would overturn our administrative decision in the office. So the Planning and Zoning Commission says, no, this freestanding sign can go in this location, then we would be able to sign off on that building permit for the location of that sign.
And it's only for this particular sign and post.
Correct, yeah,
Not-
so
nothing else.
every
They would have to do for anything
property,
else.
correct, yeah, every property is going to be held to the zoning ordinance standards.
But I mean, they can't do more than just the sign and post, that's all.
This is just related to that sign in that vision clearance, correct?
Okay, does anyone have any more questions to me? Do we have, are the owners here? Are the agents of this? Yes. Are there any objectors or concerned citizens to this? No. Okay. Would you care to come down and speak to this issue or not?
If you have questions, sure.
Does anyone have any questions? No. All right. Then I would like to hear a,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for appeal of administrative decision AAD-19-002, staff report for approval. It's not approval for the administration.
You're asking for
That
reversal.
the administrative decision being appealed.
He's reading it, there it goes.
The administrative decision being appealed is in error, and that the applicant is hereby permitted to have the freestanding sign as it is shown in permit number 1901234 and described herein on the property commonly known as 1700 East Washington Street, Joliet, Illinois 60433, and identified by permit index number 30-07-130-111-030-0000.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? None opposed? Okay. The case is passed with majority.
Thank you.
Oh, do you have any paperwork?
Yeah.
You want to stop them?
They're out there, they're ready.
Here, hold on, why not? You can't be two places. Shame on that.
The chance you had, but you don't. Excuse me, Matt. We would like to move one case forward and move another case back. Can we change that? Do we have to change the agenda or can we just do it? Just do it. Okay, thank you. We're now going to hear case number 8. which is ordinance amending the Will County, Illinois zoning ordinance adopted and approved September 9th as amended for zoning case number ZC-19-036. Mary Lou Gass, owner of record, Townhouse House of Bird.
Did you want me to start, Mr. Chairman? I'm sorry, I stepped out.
Yes, please, start, please.
Zoning case ZC-19-036 is two requests, a map amendment from A1 to I1, and a special use permit for a truck terminal. And as you can see that, and I'm sure the chairman had mentioned, staff had requested to table this in the staff report, but the commission would like to proceed with this case to be heard tonight. This takes place in Joliet Township with Mary Lou Gast as the owner and Tom Osterberger as the applicant. The applicant is requesting the map amendment and the special use permit to develop the property for industrial uses. I have here the aerial map for you. In that teal blue area is the floodplain on the property for your reference. The parcel is currently unimproved. It is farmland and currently farmed. We have the floodplain, which runs through this southern part here. You can see that it is the creek, and then a little sort of tributary of that creek as well. The parcel is actually pretty difficult to pull over and try to take images of. So I have provided some Connect Explorer images, some bird's eye view for you. It is large as well, so this gives you a better sense of the area and the parcel itself. This is a view looking north. This is a view looking east. A view looking south, and you can see the Estes truck terminal just behind it there. And a view looking west. As I mentioned, the applicant is making these requests in order to develop the parcel for industrial uses. So a concept plan was submitted as part of this. This is not for building permit issuance, of course. This is just to give you an idea of what may occur on the property. So because of that floodplain that runs down here, and then there's that little tributary area that goes over here, the applicant is proposing a small warehouse development down in this area. And then over here is the truck terminal area request. And there are two buildings, one right here and one right here, which are related to the trucks themselves, for truck repair, for part storage, and things like that. So when reviewing the map amendment criteria, this property, for me at least, posed a challenge to wrap my mind around the zoning in the area. So I did give you our traditional zoning map so you can see the adjacent properties. We have I-2 directly to the north, which are the industrial condos, the Cherry Hill industrial condos. Then we have Forest Preserve District property immediately to the west. To the south is I-1 within the city of Joliet. That's that Estes truck terminal that I had mentioned to you. Then across Cherry Hill Road is that A1 parcel, which is an active farm. And then we also have kind of kitty corner up to the northeast is, there's some more industrial condos over there. So I had created sort of a simplified zoning map because we have City of Joliet and Village of New Lenox mixed in with the unincorporated areas all right here. So it was difficult to get a sense of what is the trend in development, what are the other zoning districts in this vicinity, and that yellow circle here, around, is identifying a 1 mile radius. So we have the orange, which are residential. We have the blue, which are industrial. We have red, which is the commercial zoning district. And then the green is A1. So as you can see, there's a mix going on here. We have some forest preserve property going over in this way. We have some residential developments, some old subdivisions that were done back in like the 1950s and 60s. So the trend in development in this area, as was detailed in the staff report, really has been towards either commercial development or industrial development. The only residential development that has occurred would be single standalone residences. The subdivisions have been that way for a number of years, roughly about 50 years at this point. And also the Forest Preserve has acquired properties. It's been for the past 20 years or so in this vicinity. So as I mentioned at the beginning of my report, staff was really unable to make a determination on the special use permit request with the information that we had. I know that the applicant has some folks to speak tonight about that, but we did not receive any formal comments from the Joliet Township Highway Commissioner, and Cherry Hill Road in this area is under their jurisdiction. There is talk of widening Cherry Hill to 4 lanes within the Will County 2040 plan. I don't know where that stands. I don't know if it is something that is going to actually be occurring or is in the plans to occur. I'm not clear on the capacity of Cherry Hill to handle the 100 daily trips of the semi-trucks on that road. I don't know if the Highway Authority would require perhaps a right turn lane, for example. So staff was reserving judgments on the special use request until more information was received. And we did have a comment by the Forest Preserve District, which you will see on my next slide, that should the commission recommend approval of the special use permit request, we would recommend condition number 2 be added. So while the Forest Preserve did not outright object, they expressed concerns about the effect of this development on their neighboring forest preserve, which again is to the west. So we would require, per their letter, naturalized vegetated basins for that detention basin, and that oil and grit separators would be provided in the storm water inlets, so to further prevent any kind of oil into the tributary of Sugar Run Creek. So staff is recommending approval of the map amendment from A1 to I1 based upon the review criteria in the zoning ordinance. And as we had mentioned, staff was recommending to table or continue the special use permit request until some more information was received. And that concludes staff's analysis.
Anyone have any questions that you need? Thank you. Oh, you do?
Was the city of Joliet asked or approached about being annexed, do you know?
I know the city of Joliet was notified. I can speak to that, and I think the applicant can speak to the fact that the city did hear this request. I don't want to speak out of turn here.
You know,
But we didn't.
my thought process here is if buildings are going to be built, it would appear to me that sewer and water would kind of become important here. And I'm wondering how that would work if they weren't annexed. Obviously, there's been a lot of growth in that area, and sewer and water lines have been run a lot of places. But it just seems to me the kind of facility that needs to be tapped, or structure that needs to be tapped on.
And, you know, part of staff's reservations about the special use request and continuing it for more information was that we had received comments from the city of Joliet either. And you know, we had a truck terminal actually last month, and they did send us a letter. They objected to it, and they had some concerns which we addressed during our public hearings. But we wanted some more comments from some of the agencies that were notified.
And is it common for the Joliet Highway Department not to communicate with you on it?
There was a transition from, yes, a retirement and a transition, so.
It takes them a while.
It's not that they don't care, just it might have fallen in the cracks.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Would the agent please come down? While the agent's coming down, are there any concerned citizens or objectors in this case? Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Tom Osterberger, 111 North Ottawa Street, Joliet. I'm an attorney for Mary Lou Gast. I'm also the person who, well, let me give you the quick history. Mary Lou and Jim Gast own this and about the better part of 60 acres south. Several years ago, I was representing them. They were selling to Estes Trucking. Estes Trucking would not, as hard as we tried, buy all the acres, so they stopped at the creek, thereby orphaning about 15 acres. And so she marketed that property. There were several buyers that came in, talked to the county, and nothing ever came together. So I offered to buy the property from Mary Lou, and if we get the correct zoning, I will do so. Mary Lou's a wonderful woman. This property, we call it 15 acres, but the farmer, local person who probably most of you guys know, doesn't pay for all the acres because there's so much floodplain creek. So nice dirt, but it's really an orphan parcel. Immediately to the north is Muriel Court. As Janine said, those are industrial condos, and south is now Estes Trucking. I think I would adopt staff's report both for the rezoning on the industrial and for the special use. I want to point out that Janine's report is based on the legal requirements for the special use. This complies. Her concern is traffic in Cherry Hill Road. I talked to Jim Maffio on his way out the door. He said I had to deal with Mike Turnbull. I talked to Mike. I told Mike that this is what we're planning. I sent him the application, all the forms.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Please identify these gentlemen.
I'm sorry.
I know who they are.
Yeah, Mike Turnbull is the new Joliet Township Highway Commissioner.
Oh.
So I said, Mike, here's all the stuff. Let me know. I know Janine would like a word. And Mike said, look, I will make an appointment. You can meet us out there when it's time for a permit. And whatever I require, you'll have to do. And I said, that's fair. I don't know if that would be a larger apron, a turn, but whatever he requires for the permit is what this property is going to require. With respect to City Joliet, it was brought up about annexation. I talked to Mike Schwartz about that. The city sewer and water is too far away, making it cost prohibitive to go into the City of Joliet. Joliet did send a letter, Janine. You were copied from Mike Schwartz, and I'll send you a copy. They don't object. Their only concern about something we call a truck terminal is they like to see larger buildings to have an increased tax base. So they don't have an objection, and I'll get you that. I'm pretty sure you were copied. But it was an email, so clearly they didn't mail it. So with respect to industrial, I mean, it's a logical use. You saw the circle. That's what's happening there. I have here today Marty Roden, who has a small trucking company in the area, and Gene Briscoe, a commercial broker, to discuss, answer any questions you have on both the traffic use and the need. So the reason why I'm asking for the special use for the trucking is I have several clients and a neighbor who has an interest. They have a small trucking need. We can't find properties for small users to use for trucking. If you're Old Dominion, if you're Estes, you come in, you buy 100 acres, you develop it. Small guys are getting squeezed out and out. City of Joliet, it's very difficult to find a spot, and so that's why the use. But I can't bring a user in today until we get the zoning and they're set up to be able to construct a facility consistent with any staff recommendations. There really is a need. I'd like to have the person to tell you how they operate, but the site itself is going to limit. We're asking for a special use on 9+ acres. In reality, I should have had geotech skinny that down. It's really probably closer to 5+ acres that'll be usable. And that's an engineering issue, but you saw the site. So it's just that north portion. The front building that is up there has been added simply for a user to have truck parts sale. There's a good chance it will never go in. With respect to traffic, I mean, I respect Janine's concern. A facility like this, and Mr. Roden can testify, The trucks go out in the morning, they make their hauls, and they come back at night. I'm sure Mr. White could confirm that. Nobody makes money if the trucks are coming back and sitting there. When they come back, they're staying there. So, to the extent there's 50 spots, and keep in mind, some of this would be truck repair. The building itself would have 3 bays for truck repair and then some office. So there would be some of those spots that would be used for a truck that is under repair. And so to the extent that it was a full 50, 50 would go out in the morning, they'd come back at night. So that's really all I have with respect to the Forest Preserve. I did send all the stuff well in advance of the notice. Forest Preserve wants to make sure that nothing gets into the creek. Absolutely. I already talked to Geotech before I talked to them about protecting that creek. We're not going to have tenants in there messing things up. I currently have a building in Rockdale and removed the tenant. He was a pig. We're not going to have that. So, I mean, I think this spot, nobody likes to hear the word trucks, but we have all of these facilities, we have the warehouses. At least you have a location here in the area where it can service those buildings and return home without going all the way through our county. So I would ask that you approve it. Again, like I said, I have people here to discuss and certainly talk about the trips. But a traffic study would be a very significant cost to say trucks go out in the morning and they come back at night.
In your conversation with Joliet officials,
Yes.
Did anyone mention the potential widening of Cherry Hill Road in the near future?
No. So originally when I talked to Joliet Township Commissioner Jim Maffio, he suggested that the county takes care of that portion, Cherry Hill Road. They absolutely do not. They sent a letter to Geotech because I said we gotta resolve this. The county does handle part of Cherry Hill Road further north. They don't handle this. This is a township road, and certainly I don't think Joliet Township has the budget or the intent to widen this. If it is part of the larger county plan, you know, it would certainly be low on their
earlier,
list.
that's why I asked you for clarification.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Now, you have some experts that you would like to?
I'm happy to have answer questions on the truck, what would happen here with traffic, if you have questions. But as I indicated, I was recently in Shanahan with a slightly smaller facility. Again, trucks go out and they come back. I don't blame Janine, but we're talking about trucks that are going to be put out on the road, haul, and if they're long haul, they're not coming back for days sometimes.
Right.
If they're short haul, they go out somewhere between 5 and 7 in the morning. They come back between 3 and 7 at night.
So basically what you're asking for is a truck parking facility.
Well, and I'm sure Janine could comment. When people say truck terminal, we think about Estes, trucks coming and going, cross-docking. That's not this. This is exactly what you said. It's glorified parking, and then we have some truck repair because, they service their fleet.
Sure.
I mean, it is glorified repair. Now, that doesn't mean the trucks aren't going to be out on the road, but they're going to be there, and the question is what are the smaller guys going to do?
Anyone else have any questions?
What's your plan to back into that parcel? It's pretty unusable back there.
Yeah, so it's very low. That's where most of the comp storage is going to be. That separates any use from the forest preserve. It won't be unless we completely regraded and got a different site plan approved. That's the lowest area. Nothing's going to be there.
All that water, that's what it looked like with the.
Yeah.
Had to be pretty telling last Friday, Saturday morning.
Yeah. You had a river run through there.
The creek alongside my house was 200 yards outside the banks in both directions, so I know.
Well, ironically, when you bring up the Google Earth image, there is a van trailer turning to go north on Cherry Hill Road. That was all rebuilt with the county 5, 6, 8 years ago. So the intersection is very capable. But,
Yes, did you
He
have?
said only if we had questions, otherwise, what he's
Anybody?
saying is the reality, that's all he's going to come down.
Okay, you don't need any experts?
We're going to roll through there.
All approved, okay.
I have a question of staff.
Thank you, sir, have a seat.
Thank you.
And once again, is there any objectors or concerned citizens in this case? No? Okay, thank you. You have a question for staff?
Refresh me then, floodplain, there is no way a parking lot or parking can ever be inhabiting that floodplain?
I would, you're right behind me. You're going to do the,
So
House, right?
floodplain can be used for certain storage. There's no structures, and you cannot, I'm going to pretend to be an engineer. You can't construct such that you're displacing any of that water.
Could it possibly be paid to truck be
Yeah.
parked?
No, you can't pay this.
Because, you know, if you follow social media, there's an incredible number of people that say, I had no idea water was here.
Yeah, you can't do that.
And then, you know, people, it's hard for them to wrap around like, oh no, you shouldn't build something there. I'm sure you deal with this all the time. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, why did this happen? And that would be my concern, that eventually, years down the road, this is going to just encroach in that floodplain.
But if anybody
There is-
wants to
there
add
is-
on, they need a building permit.
There is one other concern, and it may not be anything that this applies to this commission, but I've been told now twice in the last 6 months that trucking terminals, especially where they're offloading the containers, have nowhere to go with snow. And the new approach to dealing with snow in truck terminals is to salt ridiculously and just melt the snow. The one person told me their plan is to have enough salt on hand to melt a 10-inch snow. Where does that all go? But that here or there for this, and I'm like, how did that start
Let's go on
affecting
with this case.
these
Most of the
situations?
time, they just run down the road with it on their truck.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, with regard to case
Yeah, I'll
number
entertain a motion, please.
Chairman, with regard to case number ZC-19-036, I'll make a motion of approval for a map amendment from A1 to I1. Not yet.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay. Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, same case number, I'll make a motion for approval of a special use permit with 3 conditions.
Second?
I have a motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Yeah, we stumble in here on the rules.
We'll do this one.
Should have approval from the whole board, sir.
Thank you.
Pardon me? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The next case that we will hear is ZC-19-044, prepared by Marguerite Kenny and presented by Marguerite Kenny.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zoning case ZC 19-048 takes place in Wesley Township. The owner and applicant is Alan Frankowitz. The agent, Thomas Bate of Bupar Bate Architects Incorporated. The subject parcel lies at 34248 Lakeside Terrace in Wilmington. The applicant is requesting tonight a variance for the minimum street setback from Elmwood Avenue, which is unimproved, from 30 feet to 10 feet in order to remodel the existing residence and also build an addition onto that residence. The subject parcel is made up of 10 acres, or 10 parcels within the Rest Haven Beach Subdivision Unit 2, which was platted back in 1928. So this being an old subdivision, the lots were platted before the county really regulated lot sizes, building, setback standards, and so forth. The existing residence, and you can kind of see there on the screen, overlaps several of the parcels, and as such, the applicant back in July of this year consolidated the 10 parcels that you can see identified by that red box, in order to bring the parcel closer to being a conforming R3 lot. The parcel created is 18,849 square feet, where in the R3 district, 20,000 square feet is the norm. It has 169.9 feet along Lakeside Terrace, as well as 200 feet along the unimproved section of Elmwood Avenue. And you can see in the zoning map that unimproved section runs south along the property line. So looking at the zoomed in image of the subject parcel, a couple images on the screen, you can see that the first image on the top left is looking
West.
basically west, southwest at the front of the residence. So you can see a couple of the accessory structures. These will be removed prior to the addition being constructed. And then you also have the image looking north, which is just above the Elmwood Avenue section. And then you have looking east, northeast, at the rear of the existing property. So you can see by these images, the residence has kind of fallen into some disrepair. The county back in May of 2018, so last year, received a complaint about the condition of the existing residence. And the county did place this property into violation. The applicant purchased the property in June of last year, so a month later, and has been working with staff to come into compliance with the hopes of being able to live on this property. And part of that is to build an addition which would be 10 feet from that southern property line. So I have the site plan on the screen. You can see the existing residence here, and then the proposed addition, and the 10 feet from the southern property line. So in the R3 district, the typical side yard setback is 10 feet. However, since the southern property line abuts the unimproved section of Elmwood Avenue, it is considered a street setback, since the road has never been vacated or improved. So with that being said, the applicant is working with the Wesley Township Road Commissioner to get through some type of road vacation process. However, road vacations take time, and in order to come out of compliance with our code enforcement division, the applicant is pursuing a variance to rectify the situation quickly. So looking at the floor plan of the proposed residence, the applicant is proposing a 1,300 square foot attached garage. In the R3 district, the limit for accessory building area, which includes garages, is 1,500 square feet, so they would be complying with that provision. And then just a couple images looking at the subject property. So this first image is looking west at the proposed street setback. So you're looking at the unimproved section of Elmwood Avenue. And then you're looking as well at the setback for the proposed residence. The next couple images are looking north at the adjacent neighbor, where the existing residence and detached structure appear to encroach into the side yard setbacks. Again, these lots, a lot of the former lots have been consolidated to be larger parcels so the property owners can have some room to develop and put some accessory buildings, residences, and they still have a hard time meeting setbacks. And then the third is just looking east across the street. And then this is just looking at the backyard. The subject property does abut the Kankakee River. There is a Zone AE floodplain located on the subject parcel as a result. And then this is, the image on the left is looking north along Lakeside Terrace. And the image on the left is looking at the intersection of the improved section of Elmwood Avenue and Lakeside Terrace. So staff is recommending approval of the variance request. Staff and finds the unique circumstance exists due to the unimproved Elmwood Avenue never having been improved. The applicant owns additional lots south of Elmwood Avenue, but cannot consolidate due to this roadway existing. Until the road vacation occurs, the applicant is pretty much landlocked and seeking the variance to be able to get out of violation. The applicant prefers to renovate and rehabilitate the existing residence rather than having it demolished and rebuild. Plus, with the floodplain existing on the property, he would run into some difficulties obtaining permits with that. The other thing is the proposed variance will not endanger life safety, negatively impact the locality, or is it based exclusively upon a desire to make more money off the property? Again, the property owner would like to live here in the future. Of the agencies that submitted comments, none of them objected to his request for the variance, and with that, this concludes staff's analysis.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of staff? Is the owner here?
Yes, I am.
Are there any objectors or concerned citizens here? Okay. Would you care to come down, sir?
Sure.
No, not you, sir. I'm sorry, the owner first, please.
Okay.
You have an objector or a concerned citizen, so I'd like to go state your case.
Okay, as recently spoken by Janine or Marguerite, that is true, everything there is true. When I acquired the property, it was in total disrepair. My plan is to remodel it, renovate it, put an addition on it, and make it habitable for older people like myself. I'm retired, my wife is retired, and we want to live there. And basically, that's our goal, and I don't plan on making any money on it, selling it. I'm not speculating, I just want to live on the Kankakee River. I love Wilmington and just the whole area, so
Okay.
that's my case.
Does anyone have any questions? Would you sit down there, sir, until we hear from the concerned citizen or objector? Now, would you come down, sir?
My name is William Popovich.
What's your name, sir?
William Popovich,
Okay, fine. And what's your address?
34247 Lakeside Terrace.
Thank you.
I live directly across the street from
Would
the...
you sign in
Yes.
this meeting? Thank you.
My issue is the addition is almost the size of a brand new house. And it completely blocks the view of the river of both my parents who live next door to me at 34241 and myself. The vacated road that he speaks of could be improved in the future. He also owns a house directly on the other side of the so-called vacated road. It's the size of an acre. So if he's looking to build a house or live in a house when he's retired, he has 20,000 square feet, 1 acre, right there that he could live in. So I'm not really, at the point where I understand, his future plans.
The gentleman stated that he, and he's under oath, just as you are, sir, he stated the fact that he intends to expand and live there. And seeing as he owns the property, it's within his rights to do so if he gets his variance.
That's fine.
What,
My complaint is that by building the addition,
that he's blocking your view.
yeah, the river view. The reason I live there, and my parents have lived there for 54 years, and I've been there 13 years now. And since I was a child, so. But if he has intentions of living on the river like he says, he already owns a home right next door to that, on an acre. And if he wants to build a bigger home to live on that, he could also do it there. So that's my concern.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone have any, wait one second, anyone have any questions? No. Thank you. You can go back now. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion, please. In this case, case number ZC-19-048.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to case number ZC-19-048, I'll make a motion for approval of variance for minimum street setback from Elmwood Avenue unimproved from 30 feet to 10 feet.
Keep your own second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Okay, thank you. Next we go to- Marguerite, do you have ZC 19-044?
I have, yes, 44. I have 54 as well.
54 is over up.
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll correct the slide.
53, 54.
When I was there, 54?
They were stacked in our packet, right at the agenda, which is what, they're not necessarily numerical order. Took me a while to figure that out. They're just because of stuff that happens.
She was just upset.
Who do they make fun of on this commission? Me? Me? So it's not 44, we can make 54, 53.
Next case will be CC-19-054, prepared by Marguerite Kenny and presented by Marguerite Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zoning case CC 19-054 takes place in Washington Township. The owner and applicant is Paulo Bentavega. The subject parcel is a 1.62 acre A1 parcel with 115 feet of lot frontage located at 325 West Eagle Lake Road in Beecher. The applicant is requesting a variance for the minimum side yard setback along the eastern property line from 50 feet to 6 feet in order to construct a 1,440 square foot pole barn 6 feet off the eastern property line. I have an image on the screen of Stout subdivision. The subject parcel is Lot 1 of Stout subdivision, which was platted back in 1970. Stout subdivision comprises of 3 lots, and you can see on the screen those 3 lots, all of which are deficient for A1 standards. They were developed between 1970 and 1977, so again, just before the county's comprehensive rezoning happened in 1978. The county did not regulate setback requirements in the A1 district at this time, so you will see shortly within the oncoming slides the development trends that occurred as a result. And just as a reminder, I'm sure the commissioners are all aware, A1 is typically 10 acres with 300 feet of frontage. They also require 50-foot side and rear yard setbacks. So I have on the screen the plat survey. The red box depicts what the proposed pole building will be located. According to historical aerials, the residence and the detached garage, and I can delineate those for you. Residence, the detached garage, and then the proposed pole barn. The detached garage lies 8.13 feet off the eastern property line, so this property line here. And the applicant intends to locate the pole building behind this detached garage. So looking at the aerial and the zoning maps, you can see the surrounding area is zoned A1 with the proposed pole barn indicated in blue right here. But you can see the other lots within the subdivision have structures encroaching into that 50-foot side yard setback. The health department requires a 10-foot minimum separation distance from the septic field, and you can see the septic field is located behind the existing residence on the subject parcel. And then the rear of the property is also actively farmed. So the applicant has a limited area to work with in terms of building a pole barn. The 32 by 48 square foot pole barn is going to encroach into a side yard setback. The width of the lot is 115 feet, so when you do the math with the 50-foot requirement on both sides, you're going to encroach into at least one. The applicant is requesting the 6 feet out of preference. So just looking at a zoomed-in image of the subject parcel with the Connect Explorer image, you can see the smaller lots within the subdivision. Again, all of these properties were developed in the early 1970s. You have several buildings that were built on property lines, so that's the detached garage on the subject parcel. The adjacent one, which lies about 5 feet from the property line, and the third is about 10 feet from the property line. And with this, it's staff's professional opinion that the variance, if approved, would not alter the essential character of the locality. And this is just looking at the proposed architectural plans for what the pole building will look like. And just some site images. So this is looking south at the subject parcel from West Eagle Lake Road. This is looking at the proposed setback, and you can notice the residence and the detached structures. And this is just zoomed in at the existing detached garage and the other building. So orienting yourself, you are looking northeast at the subject property, or northwest I should say, from the southeast corner of what is proposed for the pole building. The applicant was eager for the zoning case, so he did delineate on his graphs with spray paint the approximate outline of the building. So this is looking along the western side of the proposed building at how it's going to jut into his property. And this is looking west at the backyard, looking east at the neighboring adjacent parcel. And this is looking east and west along Eagle Lake Road. So staff is recommending approval of the variance request in addition to the proposed building's location not being out of character, being so close to a property line. Staff finds that the proposed variation would not endanger any life safety, negatively impact public welfare, and it's not based exclusively upon a desire to make more money. He simply wants more space for personal storage and to maintain his property. And then of the agencies that submitted comments, none objected. And this concludes staff's analysis.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions to staff? Okay. Thank you very much. Is the owner or applicant or agent here?
Yes.
Yes. Is there anyone, a concerned citizen or anything concerned with this case here tonight or objector? Okay. Do anybody on this board have any questions for the applicant? Okay. You don't have to come down unless you want to then, sir. If you want to, you're welcome to, but otherwise, you don't have to.
Okay.
Because they've recommended approval and there's no objectives.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for zoning case CC 19-054. Motion for approval of a variance for minimum side yard setback east side from 50 feet to 6 feet.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second from you, please.
I can, yes, I
Yes,
do.
second, yes. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Okay, sir. Get approval.
Thank you.
Use two different formats.
The next zoning case tonight will be ZC-19-058. And was prepared by Janine Farrell and will be presented by Janine Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zoning case ZC-19-058 is a request for two variances. The first is for maximum accessory building area from 1,500 square feet to 1,819 square feet, and also a variance for a minimum side yard setback from 10 feet to 5 feet. The applicant, Richard Demena, is requesting these variances in order to construct a new pole building which measures 30 feet by 32 feet on the property. I have the aerial image of the property up here on the screen for you and a zoning map. It's sort of an odd property where we have Lakewood Drive actually bisecting it. So on the portion over here, the eastern portion, we have the residence and we have some accessory structures. And then here, which borders the river, is currently unimproved. And these are some images of that residence on the property and then a view of the other portion of the property which borders the river. These are some views which are looking up and down Lakewood Drive, looking north in this one, and then looking south in this one. This is the existing accessory building area on the property. The applicant has an attached two-car garage, and we have two sheds, one right there and one right over there in the rear yard. And combined, this is about 858 square feet that's already existing on the property. The applicant is proposing to build that 30 by 32 pole building, and you can see it's going in the rear corner here of the property. This is the residence. We have Lakewood Drive, residence, proposed building. We have one shed down here, another shed over here. These lines are representing the septic fields right there. Now there is a minimum 10-foot separation distance per the health department from any structure to the septic field. So the applicant, in order to meet that 10-foot distance, is now going to encroach into the side yard setback to 9 feet. So that is the one variance request. And the other request is related to that accessory building area. So the applicant is proposing to add a 960 square foot building, which again brings him up to that 1,819 square feet. So based upon the review criteria in the ordinance, the staff does not find that the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances. The owner can still build a structure up to 641 square feet, or the owner could also demolish those two smaller sheds that are existing on the property and then build a structure that's up to 872 square feet. Staff also found through aerial measuring and through site visits that the properties that are out there in the accessory buildings appear to be within the R3 limits, so that 1,500 square feet. So there is the potential for this variance request to alter the essential character of the area with the size of that building. And for those reasons, staff is recommending denial of both requests in this instance, for the accessory building area from 1,500 to 1,819, and for that side yard setback from 10 feet to 9 feet. Staff did not receive any objections from any of the agencies that were notified. And that concludes staff's analysis.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Staff? Thank you. Is the owner or representative here? And is there, yes? And is there any objectors or concerned citizens here? Okay, would you care to come? Are you an objector or concerned citizen, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes, you are?
Yes.
Okay.
Shall I
And
come up
I
now?
want to speak to the owner first, please.
Shall I come up now or?
Owner
Owner's up
first, please.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. It's my parents' residence, and he just has a little hard time hearing,
So I
so
just said we get some hard hearing here.
Yeah, we
Come
don't.
on, you're all right.
Yeah.
thank you.
Some of us got big problems over here.
Yeah. Okay, would you give us your name and address, please?
I'm sorry?
Give us your name and address.
Richard Demena,
And address.
1931 Lakewood Drive, Wilmington, Illinois.
Now, the staff has recommended a denial on both cases. Would you like to state your case, why you need this and why you want this?
I can't see a reason for denial, but if that's the case, that's the case. But, I went through all this.
What are you doing with that? What are your plans?
I'm going to antique cars, and there was one that was shown on the screen, and I got several more. And I got 2 car lifts, and I'd like to get a bigger one so I don't have to store the cars outside.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I just rented a garage 2 doors north of me because, well, there was a complaint that the property didn't look neat.
Okay.
And where it was neat, where it was untidy is where the barn's going to go. So, I don't know, I was accused of being a hoarder, and I'm not a hoarder. I'm insulted by that name.
Okay.
I thought a hoarder is where you can't even walk through anything, but anyway.
All right, sir, thank you. Would you sit over there, please, until we hear from the objector?
Thank you.
Now, may we hear the objector or concerned citizen? One at a time, please state your name and your address.
I'm Karen Oldenberger,
Right over.
1927 Lakewood Drive. We are directly to the north, the next door neighbors.
Okay.
If this is passed, if this variance is passed, my objection is that I would want a 6 to it is what we would be looking at. And I would want a 6-foot high solid fence because I don't want to look at this. Our neighbor, we've had a good relationship, but he's had a lot of stuff and jumping back and forth, back in the backyard also from time to time. And now there's a stone driveway that he put in, which is on the picture, which is right on the lot line next to the fence. And he just doesn't even really have a driveway. It just ends up in the grass up in front. I think it's could hurt our property value, and unless we have a fence there, so that we don't have to look at it. Already the fence is on the property line. We aren't sure whose it is. I think it might be theirs. It's the people who lived there before he lived there said, but it's dilapidated. If you look at the plot, it's a wire fence all the way around the yard, which would make sense it was his. over their property, but who knows when this fence was built. But it's dilapidated, so he has put pieces of plastic and pieces of wood in front of the fence, and it really looks horrible, to make the fence so his dog can't come through, I guess. And it's very low, probably at most 4 feet. In other areas, it's not that high because it's dilapidated. And basically, I see you're denying it anyway, but we don't want to look at this. We really do believe that unless we have a fence there to save our property, it's going to affect our property value. Also, the bobcat or whatever it was that put those stones in, it already hit the front of it. In front of this fire fence, there's a chain link fence. It already ran into the chain link fence and damaged some of the chain link fence. Not that it's a beautiful fence, but it damaged it. I'm just concerned the driveway is really close to our lot line. We're not comfortable with this.
Do you have anything to add, sir?
Do you have anything to say? He has a hard time with hearing also.
Yeah, me too, so we're all in the same group. Do you have anything to add?
Oh, no. The only thing I like about it, I like old cars.
Yeah.
So I won't knock that.
Now, somebody had a question here?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Michael.
I see your home, you have a mobile home
Right.
in your garage, and the other side of the house, I see there's trucks or cars be parked on the other side of the house.
Right.
Thank you.
I was going to ask how big is your parcel?
Ours is about exactly the same as their parcel.
Okay.
I'm not sure the exact measurements, but either side of their home or our home, those parcels are smaller, but ours are about the same.
We're right close to, right about an acre.
Okay,
That
all right, how
close a big chunk on the
long
river.
have you lived there?
We've owned the house now 15 years.
Okay. You've lived in the same house for 15 years?
Right.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Actually,
Roger, go ahead.
have you considered this accessory building, that once it's built, a lot of the items on the property would then be in the building? Wouldn't that improve the property as far as you're concerned, getting some of those things out of sight?
Well, I'm not sure because he collects a lot of things, so I'm not sure that he would collect more. But the other objection is also the fence. I mean, that he's put like barriers, so there's weeds and trees growing in between the two, the wire dilapidated fence plus the pieces of plastic and wood or whatever it is he put up. Even the gate, there used to be a gate into his backyard. That's barricades. No, he said he was going to put a gate up there. But there's all stuff alongside the garage. There used to be plants there when people lived there previously. Now there's junk there. I mean, there's poison ivy growing into our yard that I keep cleaning up. That because the yard is such a mess. Yes, he might clean some of that up. But do I have a lot of faith that he will? No.
You good neighbor.
May I speak again?
You'll have your chance in a couple minutes.
Just wait, sir. Have you anything else?
No, again, we just want to say, if you do pass it, we appreciate it if you would state that there needs to be a solid fence there so that it protects our property.
Okay, thank you.
They can get that.
We can't force him to get a fence for a neighborhood like this. You could put in a fence if you chose, if you didn't want to look at it. That's up to you if we approve it. But we can't make him put up a fence. Not in a subdivision.
We can't put any requirements at all on variance.
Well, I just said.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. Sir, you may,
Sorry, but I just cut bits and pieces.
wait 1 second. Would you pull the microphone to your face? Go ahead.
Sorry, but I just caught bits and pieces of that conversation, but I caught where I have like portable gates, and those gates are only up for protecting my dog, and I had to make it wider. The gates that were originally there were only 5-foot gates. So I'm going to make 12-foot gates. And this whole process of building this barn and everything took about 4 or 5 months with my indecisions and my decisions. And so I'm planning. I got a nice home. There's no quarrel with that, and I'm not trying to make a wreck out of it. It's just in the process of getting all this done. That's all I ask. I mean, if I go back to a standard sized pole barn, that's fine with me. I mean, but I just want a little extra room. That's all.
Okay, thank you,
And
sir.
it's cost me almost $1,000 to get that extra room. And nobody has said anything or complained about it until water fence or anything up until about maybe a week ago. And I questioned my fence. I didn't know whether it was right on our property line. And I didn't know whose fence it was. So we are going to either fix the fence or do something about the fence. Because I don't like the fence, but I got to protect my dog. I had to put some barricades in there. And we never talked about the fence until this is all happening. So whether she wants to use that as a leverage, I don't know. But that's none of my business.
Perhaps you and your neighbor could get together and maybe share the cost.
Well, that's fine with me, but I mean, she came on to me with all these complaints, and I was ready to not even cancel everything here. I'm not one to speak in front of people. I never did. It's the first time.
You did fine.
In 77 years, but
You did a good job.
Thank you.
thank you.
Ready, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I would like to hear a motion. on this.
Chairman, with regard to case number ZC-19-058, I'll make a motion for approval of a variance for maximum accessory building area from 1,500 square feet to 1,890 square feet.
Second.
The motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign?
Mr. Chairman, same case number, I'll make a motion for approval of a variance for minimum side yard setback from 10 feet to 9 feet.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Okay. You have passed, and they have some paperwork.
You did get, you got your variance. Yes, you're all set.
We might have some paperwork for you. Hold on, right here. You're right in front of you. You got any paperwork from him that he needs? Okay, right behind you.
Winter white. Back in the day when I started construction, there was white. Then they started calling it snow mist and all. There's plenty of funky different colors of white.
No, there's not. There's one white.
Well, that's in my book.
chip, really, they want to charge me $500 just to cover up the chip.
I guess I didn't leave enough room.
You'll bless. You'll
No, it's approved. It was approved.
Yes. I'm not going to say it. I accept on bar code. The next case number is VC-19-05-053. Report prepared by Marguerite Kennedy and presented by Marguerite Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zoning case CC 19-053 takes place in Crete Township. The owner is Lisa M. Lesniak, 2017 trust, where Lisa Lesniak is a trustee, and Robert Fox and Gabrielle Lesniak are each 50% beneficiary. The agent representing tonight's case is Lisa Lesniak. The subject property lies at 24626 South Stony Island Avenue in Crete. The applicant is requesting a map amendment from A1 to R2A in order to divide the property in half. So I have a Connect Explorer aerial image of the subject parcel on the screen. You can notice there are subdivisions surrounding the subject property. The existing A1 parcel is 2.25 acres with 330 feet of lot frontage along Stony Island. A minimum lot standards for A1, again, 10 acres, 300 feet of frontage. So the subject parcel is deficient in lot area for the A1 district. The subject property is improved with a single-family residence, while the other half is heavily wooded. And the proposed division would create a northern and southern parcel, where the residence would be on the southern parcel, and the wooded area would be along that northern parcel. With this division, the existing residence should meet the side yard setback for the R2A district. And the property as currently configured is used residentially and is not suitable for agricultural uses other than single-family residential. So again, just looking at the subject property, it is located within subdivision. So looking along the eastern side of Stony Island, we have the Plum Creek Highlands subdivision, which was platted in 1975. It is zoned R3, and you will see a zoning map later on. So just some images looking at the subdivision. So this is looking at the corner of, I believe, Oak Ave and Stony Island. This is looking adjacently across the street from the subject parcel. And then this is looking along the southern portion of Oak Ave and Stony Island. Looking north and south along Stony Island Avenue, again, more residentially atmosphere than agricultural. So looking at the zoning map on the screen, you can see that the subject parcel being zone A1 is surrounded by R2A to the north, south, and west, and R3 located directly east. There are a couple other sporadic A1 parcels. A lot of these are affiliated with the Will County Forest Preserve District and Forest Preserves. Just to mention too that the John Baker's re-subdivision, which was platted in 1966, as well as the first edition of that subdivision, platted in 1968, lies to the southeast. The Heidelberg subdivision, platted in 1967, lies northwest of the subject parcel. And then we also have the May Crest Boyd subdivision and the first edition, which were platted in 1969 and 1971 respectively, lie to the north of the subject property. So looking at a mile and a half radius, within a mile and a half of the subject parcel, which you can tell by the center is a red star, residential, whether it be E1, E2, R1, R2, R2A, and R3, and even smaller A1 parcels comprise the majority of the land uses and the zoning within the half-mile distance. Many of these A1 parcels are within the Forest Preserve District and are actual forest preserves. As you go out larger, so a mile away from the subject property, you start getting the village of Crete. You have
commercial with the B4 business district. You have estate residential within the Village of Crete, and you also get a little bit of I-1 within unincorporated Will County, as well as up here with the Village of Crete. So the trend in development has been towards residential subdivisions within this area, starting with the John Baker's re-subdivision and continuing to the subdivision directly west of the subject parcel with the Eastwood subdivision, which was platted in 1993. The subject parcel lies within the suburban community form, and I have the excerpt of the land resource management plan. Your staff report has a larger image that might be easier to see. But with that, the suburban community form is where the subject parcel resides in. And with that, the suburban residential uses should connect between subdivisions and avoid creating any type of isolated development patterns. That being said, agricultural uses were not included as appropriate uses in the suburban development form. And since the subject property is being used more residentially than agriculturally, it conforms to the suburban community form principle of the land resource management plan, rezoning to a residential zoning district, which would blend the R2A with the R3. The Village of Crete has a comprehensive plan that they adopted in 1997 that shows this subject parcel being part of an open space corridor connecting forest preserves within the area. However, the plan lists agricultural land uses, primarily actively farmed agricultural land uses, to be considered open space. And the subject parcel does not agree with that plan. Again, back in 1997 is when it was adopted. So it has been decades old plans that they have been using. But with that, it doesn't agree with what they had foreseen back in 1987. And staff just wanted to point out that the Village of Crete has not objected to this rezoning. So just looking at the plat survey on the screen, the red line in the center is roughly halfway for the subject parcel. Each parcel would be 1.125 acres with 165 feet of lot frontage. And pursuant to the Illinois Plat Act, no subdivision plat is required when the sale or exchange of parcels or tracts of land existing on July 17, 1959, and not involving any new streets or easements of access occurs. According to the Will County Recorder, the earliest deed recorded for the subject parcel was recorded March 5, 1951. So the exemption that I just referenced applies to the subject parcel where it does not need a subdivision plat to be recorded. It just needs to adhere to the zoning ordinance and hence the map amendment to be able to meet the lot standards when it is divided. And staff has consulted our subdivision engineer before they retired, and they concurred with that exemption and the deed from 1951. So staff is recommending approval of the map amendment to the R2A district. Staff just wanted to point out that the map amendment review criteria, which staff analyzed in detail in the staff report, to provide just kind of a quick glance. And again, with the staff report, any comments received from the various local and state agencies have been included. The EcoCat report identified protected resources that may be within the vicinity. However, further consultation determined that adverse effects were unlikely. And with that, this concludes staff's analysis.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for staff? Thank you very much. Is the owner or agent here? Is there any objectors or concerned citizens here? We have an approval recommended. If you don't have to come down unless you want to. Okay, thank you. I'd like to hear a motion on this case, please.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to case number ZC-19-053, I make a motion for approval of map amendment from A1 to R2A.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay. Thank you for waiting so long, but you're approved. the last case that we have tonight is ZC 19-044. Prepared by Marguerite Kenny and going to be presented by Marguerite Kenny. Thank you, Marguerite. Go ahead.
Okay, the final zoning case of the night. Zoning case ZC 19-044 takes place in Lockport Township. The owner is Ramiro Galvez with Maria Hernandez Barajas. The agent representing tonight's case is Wendy Galvez. The subject parcel lies at 17850 Rosalind Street in Joliet. And the applicant tonight is requesting a special use permit to keep the keeping of horses, farm animals, and livestock, to be able to keep one horse on the subject property. The applicant has requested this special use be applicable to the entire parcel and transferable to future property owners. In order to house the horse, the applicant would like to construct a 64-foot by 30-foot or 1,920 square foot stable. The R1 district requires animal confinement buildings, such as stables, to be located 50 feet from all property lines. The applicant initially requested the stable to be located 10 feet from the western property line. However, has amended the request to locate the stable 10 feet further into the property, so they're requesting 20 feet from the property line. The R1 district also limits accessory building area to 1,800 square feet, and thus the applicant is requesting a variance for the maximum accessory building area from 1,800 square feet to 2,734 square feet in order to obtain a building permit for the stable. So just showing review criteria standards that the special use was evaluated against. Staff has provided detailed explanation in the staff reports, and then as well for the variance requests. So the subject property is located in an area where A1 is located to the north of the subject parcel. And as such, keeping of horses, farm animals, livestock is permitted as of right in the A1 district. However, the A1 district also requires a 50-foot animal confinement setback, which is consistent with the R1 district. But one difference the A1 district has is there's no limit to accessory building area. So they can have numerous buildings, numerous animal confinement structures. There's no accessory total limitation. While the subject property is also surrounded on both sides to the east and west of other R1 properties, you can notice with the zoning map that the two properties located to the west of the subject parcel have special use permits for keeping of horses, farm animals, and livestock. To the south, we have the Forest Park within the Joliet Park District system, as well as R2 single-family residential within the city of Joliet. So just looking at the Connect Explore image, you can see the first image kind of calling out the 100 square foot shed that exists on the property. And then the other one is looking at the single family attached garage, which is 714 square feet. The subject property is 1.74 acres. It is approved with a single family residence. You see the detached garage as well as the shed. It has a paved driveway accessing Rosalind Avenue. So since the property is already improved with the residence and accessory buildings, staff has found that adequate utilities have been provided, adequate access. The applicant isn't proposing any new driveways for the stable to Rosalind Avenue. If they were to do so in the future, they would be required to get the road permits from the road authority. The R1 district does have a animal requirement limitation of 1 animal unit per acre, and since the subject parcel is only 1.74 acres, it would be either 1.5 animal units or 1 horse would be permitted should the special use be granted. And the applicant will have to comply with the county's manure plan as well as the recommended conditions should the commission choose to approve the recommended conditions. So looking at the platted survey, the first call out is just the setbacks. A previous zoning case granted the subject parcel to be 120 feet wide as opposed to normally R1 districts are a minimum of 165 feet, I believe. So due to the parcel being only 120 feet wide, there is a little bit of limitation in terms of adhering to setbacks and the size of a proposed stable. The immediate area also shows that other structures basically encroach into the setback. So you can see the residence to the north also got a variance to be 5 feet from the property line, and then the residence to the south appears to be on the property line. With the stable being located 20 feet off the property line, it is also set back from the right-of-way on the property 274 feet. So it is pushed back a ways from the residences that are closer together. The applicant is looking to maximize the amount of pasture land for the horse, which is another reason why the applicant is looking towards the western property side. The subject property currently conforms to the R1 district's maximum accessory building area of 1,800 square feet with its detached shed and the existing garage. However, the size of the stable, considering other zoning districts where they permit keeping of horses and farm animals by right, do not include stables into that accessory building area calculation. Just by the 1,920 square foot stable, in of itself exceeds the 1,800 square feet. So staff finds that there is a unique circumstance with the stable being included in the accessory building area that kind of constitutes with a unique circumstance. So just looking at the subject property, we have the existing single-family residence. Looking at that western property line, you can notice how close that existing residence on the western side is to the property line. And then you can see that the stable will be behind the trees, behind the existing shed, and then there is a trailer you'll see in another photo shortly that the proposed location is going to be even further back. So this is the proposed location of the stable. And then this is looking back towards Roslyn Street from the proposed location of that stable. And then this is looking towards the rear of the property. And this is looking west towards the adjacent property's rear yard. And then this is looking east and west along Roslyn. And this is looking south towards the city of Joliet. You have Forest Park in the back on the right-hand side, as well as across the street is Zone R2A. It looks like it is kind of being developed, some brush being cleared. However, there are no solid plans yet in terms of any subdivisions going in there. It's just the zoning district. So, of the agencies that submitted comments, no one objected. The EcoCat report identified protected resources that may be in the vicinity, but further research provided by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources concluded that adverse effects are unlikely. The applicant did provide a copy of a health department letter that they sent the applicant on September 10th. Staff did not receive a copy of this letter until just prior to the meeting, so staff will read the letter into the public record, so that would be included as part of the staff report. And with that, so September 10th, 2019, to Wendy Galvez at 758 South Bales Drive in Romeoville, Illinois 60446, regarding special use permit with variance ZC 19-044, special use 19-011, B-19-050, and B-19-053. The property at 17850 Rosalind Street in Joliet. PIN number 11-04-35-401-010. This department has no objection to the proposed special use permit to allow a horse with variances for minimum setback for an animal confinement building and maximum accessory building on the above referenced property to bring it into compliance with the Will County zoning ordinance. This site plan as attached, and there's an attachment showing the septic system and how it's related to the existing residence. And sewage disposal permit on file show the minimum setback between the septic field and new building of 10 feet will be met. This letter can therefore be used as our approval of the building's location in lieu of a sign-off, which would normally be required if the location is not changed. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact this office. Sincerely, Brian Scanlon, Geologist, Environmental Health, and by the direction of Thomas Casey, of the Director of Environmental Health at the Health Department. And with that, staff is recommending approval of the special use with 7 conditions, the first being the typical site inspection permit condition, and the other 6 deal with managing the horse manure and the waste and making sure that the water is not contaminated or any odor nuisances or anything like that are occurring. Staff is also recommending approval of both variances for the minimum setback from 50 feet to 20 feet for animal confinement building, as well as a variance for the maximum accessory building area from 1,800 square feet to 2,734 square feet. And with that, this concludes staff's analysis.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions you might
I got kind of a stupid question, just to make fun of the ordinance. You know, they, because of the size of the property, 1.74 acres, they're allowed a maximum of 1 animal unit per acre, or in this case, 1.5. Do they always round down, or can you round up?
Within that provision, we also look at just the size of the animals. So usually 1 animal unit would be 1 horse, 1 cow, 1 other large, type of farm animal. But you can go smaller, so miniature horse, we would allow 2 miniature horses considered.
So they could have a full-size horse and a miniature horse?
Potentially, yeah, they could.
I'm just curious.
That would be 1.5, yeah.
You could argue that in court.
Gives them 50 more chickens.
What's that?
Gives them 50 more chickens if they go for chickens.
Yeah, there you go.
Does anyone else have any questions? No?
Who's talking?
I am talking. Thank you. Do you have anybody, you're all here for this case, right? Is there anybody objecting to this case? No. Staff has recommended approval and we have no objectors there, so if you want to just sit there, you're welcome to. Okay? All right. Yes. Michael, please, I would like to know.
I'd like to make a motion for approval for case number ZC-19-044, a special use permit for the keeping of horses, farm animals, and livestock,
With 7.
with just 7 conditions.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? No? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make also a motion for approval for same case number ZC-19-044 for variance for the minimum setback for an animal confinement building from 50 feet to 20 feet, amended request.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Okay, thank you.
Same, Mr. Chairman, same case number ZC-19-044. I'd like to make a motion for approval for variance for maximum accessory building area from 1,800 square feet to 2,734 square feet.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? You have passed unanimously, and we have some paperwork here for you. Next gentleman.
Not this age.
Next, we have an executive session. So we will have to go out of this as soon as the people leave. And I'm afraid we'll have to ask our cameraman to leave too for an executive session. So-
Okay, hold on.
Okay. Thank you, I'm sorry you had to wait so long.
Thank you.
Chairman, I'll make a motion, we go into executive session.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.